Someone calls it a destroyer of supercars. Some people shout that it is an upstart without a family or tribe that dares to challenge established supercars. Many say that this car is a breakthrough for Japanese industry, but some say the praise for this car has been overblown. Nissan has not been offended by these attacks. They were waiting in the wings, and now it's time. Let's see if the Nissan GTR really lives up to its reputation. Before we talk about modern GTRs, let me briefly look at their history. And yes, it'll be GTR because the abbreviation means Gran Turismo Racing, and that's how it's pronounced. So let's get started. It all started with the Skyline model. In 1969, Nissan introduced a sports version of the Skyline with the GTR prefix. At that time, all competitors in Japan were torn apart by the GTRs on the racetracks. As time went on, the Skyline GTR, generation after generation, made a name for itself in the world of motorsport. It left the Japanese islands and tried its hand at the racetracks in Australia, Europe, and America. The real golden era for the Skyline GTR began in 1989 with the release of the R32 model. This car, nicknamed Godzilla outside of Japan, was truly remarkable. For those years, the R32 GTR's design was groundbreaking, with all-wheel drive and the iconic RB26 DET twin-turbo engine, which had such potential that even other supercars of the time were jealous. For 5 years in a row, the GTR R32 has been the Japanese touring car racing champion. This engine produces 600 horsepower. Japanese tuners have taken things a step further and managed to get more than 1,000 horsepower out of a volume of just 2 and 6 liters, all with all-wheel drive. Imagine how fast it must accelerate. Let me remind you that it's the beginning of the 90s, and the all-wheel drive system and the RB26 DETT engine, which we should not be afraid to call a masterpiece, have also been transferred to the next generation Skyline GTR in the R34 body. At that time, few cars in the world could match the customization options of the Skyline. However, one thing was lacking. In Japan during those years, automakers had a gentleman's agreement that didn't allow cars with more than 280 horsepower to be sold. Daring Japanese individuals didn't care about these restrictions, and after buying a new Skyline, they took it to a tuning shop that was often located next to the dealership. Depending on their budget, they could increase the engine power to unrealistic levels, up to 1,300 horsepower. Perhaps you are all familiar with Paul Walker's Nissan Skyline GTR R34 from Fast and Furious 2, which possessed incredible dynamic capabilities. So, knowing the tuning potential of this car, these incredible characteristics can be believed. However, everything comes to an end. In 2002, the last real Skyline GTR R34 came off the assembly line. Why was it the last one? Because the next generation of Skyline came out with atmospheric engines and a design completely different from the iconic models. All-wheel drive was only offered for sedans, which were unsuitable for deep tuning. Japanese tuning studios ignored this model, preferring to work with other GTR versions like the R32 and R33. For 5 years, Nissan worked in strict secrecy on their new revolutionary car, showing only concept cars that were far from reality. In 2007, a completely new model was unveiled. It became clear that Nissan intended to compete with the most famous and fastest supercars of our time. The new model was renamed from the Skyline GTR to the GTR. From that moment on, a new era began for GTR. At the beginning of the presentation, Nissan immediately showed their strongest cards, recording lap times at the Nürburgring, where times of 7 minutes and 38 seconds were recorded, and later, a record of 7:26. These figures surprised many, as they beat the times of many famous supercars such as the Lamborghini Murcielago, Ferrari F40 SC, Pagani Zonda F, Mercedes SLR, and even the Porsche 911 Turbo. This fact greatly stirred the automotive community. The 911, with its impressive list of victories on racetracks, has always been considered one of the fastest supercars in the world. Its rear-engine layout and chassis match the characteristics of the famous Nürburgring track perfectly. Nissan, in particular, wants to challenge Porsche. In motorsport history, Nissan has only managed to defeat a Porsche car once, back in 1966, when the Nissan R380 beat the Porsche Carrera 6 at a race in Japan. This was an exception, as Porsche cars are generally faster in official races, making it even more important for Nissan to beat them. The GTR's performance at the Nürburgring was so impressive that Porsche decided to investigate. They brought a standard GTR there and tested it against their own 911 Turbo and GT2 cars, but the GTR still lost to the 911 by 16 seconds per lap. The company accused Nissan's management of cheating, The Germans claimed that the GTR in the record race was not standard, or that Nissan used racing tires instead of standard ones to achieve fast lap times. The Japanese, of course, denied these accusations, saying that the car was standard, except for the Bridgestone tires that were installed when it was sold at a dealership. When Porsche tested the vehicle, it was equipped with Bridgestone tires, and at the record event, the Japanese team used different tires. However, both those tires and regular road tires have not been proven to be supernatural. The letter also hinted that such differences in results may be due to Porsche's test drivers' lack of experience. The Germans were unable to prove fraud, so there has been a quiet war between the two manufacturers since then. A war of seconds on the racetrack. Who is winning now, you ask? Here, my friends, you need to create separate videos, analyzing the facts and comparing independent test results from various publications. Write if you want to see such a video. But let's move on. The first GTR had 480 horsepower and accelerated from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 3.7 seconds. The latest version of this supercar now produces 570 horsepower with an impressive acceleration time of 2.8 seconds from 0-100. Unfortunately, I could not find any stock GTR measurements up to the hundreds during that time, except for the official Nissan video. The fastest standard GTR time was 3.11 seconds, which is an impressive result. The engine is a source of pride for Nissan. Only 4 people in the world are allowed to assemble this engine from over 370 parts, and each motor takes up to 6 hours to assemble under sterile conditions. But the Japanese have a stronger argument against their competitors, the Nissan GTR Nismo. With 600 horsepower, it can accelerate to hundreds in 2.4 seconds, according to the manufacturer. This is a track-ready version of a fast car from the tuning studio of Nissan Motorsport. The Nismo modification differs from the regular GTR in that it has a reconfigured suspension system. Carbon body parts were added, and road tires designed specifically for the GTR set a Nürburgring record in 2013, which has long been considered the fastest production car in the world. However, this record was achieved by a special Nissan GTR Nismo with the N-Attack package, so it is the fastest GTR on the planet. And the N-Attack package turns the Nismo into an extreme racing vehicle. Except for engine power, which remains at 600 horsepower, all steel has been modified to make the car even faster and more durable. And so, what has changed is a self-locking front differential, a high-friction rear differential, a modified intercooler, a different titanium exhaust system, specially prepared engine management and traction control systems, and an extended body kit with aerodynamic components including the hood, door sills, bumper, and wing. Springs and shock absorbers have been completely replaced, and the main change is the use of dyno racing slick tires specially designed for the GTR. Unlike conventional road tires, these allow you to take corners at the world-famous Nürburgring circuit at absolutely insane speeds. The cost of this vehicle exceeds $200,000. However, the most amazing thing about this vehicle is not its price, but the fact that it can only be purchased in Japan. The racing package is only available on Japanese right-hand drive GTRs, which are exclusively sold at Nismo headquarters in Japan and are not shipped to other countries. Even for a regular Japanese GTR, the waiting time is 6 months. It is virtually impossible to obtain the unique package for personal use. Of course, there are some drawbacks to the GTR that I should mention for the sake of fairness in my review. Firstly, it has a robotic gearbox that needs to be cooled after 2 consecutive launches. This is a disadvantage for all GTR models. Many owners reinforce the box to resolve the problem, but on older models, excessive enthusiasm for launching can lead to a loss of warranty. The manufacturer discourages drifting as the all-wheel drive system does not like it, and it is forbidden to disable the stabilization system, risking the car being removed from warranty. Finally, the weight of the GTR is 1,750 kilograms, which is slightly heavier than other supercars compared to its competitors. However, all these drawbacks can be overcome through tuning. As you know, the GTR engine can easily be modified to exceed factory performance, but Nissan has left this exciting activity up to the tuning community by putting reliability first. With the potential for tuning a GTR, anything is possible, but it's not easy. Previously, only the most skilled mechanics had cars with more than 1,000 horsepower. Nowadays, it's common to see an 800 horsepower GTR on the road, and the real monsters are approaching 2,000. There is now a calculator on your screen that allows you to roughly estimate how much money is needed for a certain amount of horsepower. The price is not cheap, but for those with gasoline flowing through their veins, it is worth it. Here is a concrete example. The guys from the famous tuning studio AMS Performance have created the world's most powerful GTR that can drive on public roads without restriction. Their new project is called the Nissan GTR Alpha 12 Plus, and there are no standard parts left in its engine. The engine block has been increased from 3 liters to 8, and the heads, pistons, and connecting rods have all been replaced. They've also upgraded the fuel system, exhaust, and intake systems, and strengthened the gearbox. Tuners have also changed software, installed larger turbochargers that generate 2.4 bars of pressure, and added a new software package. As a result, the engine produces 1,100 horsepower with 98 octane gas and up to 1,500 with racing fuel. Acceleration to 100 takes 2.3 seconds, and the top speed is 370 kilometers per hour. Nissan recently announced a new GTR, but details are scarce. The future model will likely be a hybrid with an electric motor for extra power and speed. Williams' Formula One tech team will help develop the system. The creators say that the production model of the car shares many features with racing cars and hints at the use of technologies developed for the Nissan Lyman LMP1 prototype. So we are looking forward to an even greater intensity of battles between supercars on the racetrack. After all, each update of the GTR has been bad news for its competitors. And it's not surprising that many people call it the supercar killer. I'm sure that the GTR will continue to surprise us. So, see you soon!